community-wide book read discussion featuring the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. And of course, for those of you who've been following us for a while now, you know that we've had some panel discussions with educational leadership, law enforcement officials, religious leaders, business leaders, community political leadership, and now tonight, we're having a panel discussion with student activists. And we're very excited to have them with us tonight. And so we want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and share a little bit with us. But just before we go there, I do want to, again, take a moment to acknowledge Gwen Culpepper-Berry. She's the CDO at UNI. And we want to thank UNI and this role in spearheading this community-wide effort. And we also want to give a big thank you to the Community Collaborative, which was comprised of many men and women, everyday ordinary blues people, who bring a labor of love to this great effort, and they're absolutely amazing. And so now we want to go to the panel. We have a panel of some illustrious students that have had an opportunity to reflect upon the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and we'll start to my left with Joshua Hall, the only man, by the way, on this panel today. Joshua, please tell us your name, what school you represent, and maybe some other, peculiar identifying characteristic.
Okay, my name is Joshua Hall. I attend Hawkeye Community College right now. I'm probably looking to get into political science. I was in IT, but it wasn't really working out for me. So I found my niche in writing. I love to write. I read about probably 3 to 4 books a week. So, I mean, this is right up my alley. I come from a very biracial family, so I'm unique in that perspective. I'm the oldest of 8 children. I have half Black brothers and sisters and half Mexican sisters. So I kind of have, a unique perspective, I guess, on the way, on how
that's fabulous. And how big are those books, by the way?
Joshua? Oh, how big are they? Just depends, I guess. I'm a Kindle reader, so I don't really keep track of, how thick. There's not really a thickness on Kindle, but
all right,
regular size books, I'd say.
Great. I'm glad you're here today. Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Jimenez. I am a finance and religion major with a minor in ethics over at the University of Northern Iowa. I serve currently as the Director of Diversity for Student Government, and I'm also a member of the Racial and Ethnic Coalition, which has done a lot of activism on campus for the past 2 years at UNI.
Okay, fabulous. Now, finance and religion, how do you make that happen?
There's a very interesting intersection with those two. Generally in the business world, you think of it as behavioral economics, how people make their choices with their financial means, and it has a lot to do with people's religions, you'd find. So it's a good way to intersect those two things, and it's just 2 things that I'm both passionate about.
Wow. All right, fabulous. Nicole.
Yes, I'm Nicole Barber, and I go to Hawkeye Community College. And
let me see, can you adjust your volume a little bit, Nicole?
Yep. Is that better?
I think so. Just make sure you're projecting so everybody can hear you,
okay.
Please.
Okay. I am a student at Hawkeye Community College. I currently am majoring in a liberal arts degree. I do plan on transferring to UNI for speech pathology.
Okay, thank you. And keep working on that volume if you can. It just seems like you're a little bit more muffled than everybody else. Okay. Jalen.
Hi, my name is Jalen McBride. I am a 3rd year at Wartburg College. I am double majoring in psychology and neuroscience. And this year I am the vice president for BSU.
Wow, neuroscience. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fascinating. And we'll make sure that we come back to you as we talk about these policies here. And then last but not least, I think, Megan.
Yes, I'm Megan Zug. I'm from Allen College. I'm in the accelerated nursing program in my last semester, graduating in December. Hoping to go into labor and delivery nursing or mother baby. And then an interesting fact about me is I was previously a student at UNI and was part of the Residence Life organizations.
Oh, okay, okay. So why did you leave UNI then? You said you saw the light and you decided to go somewhere else?
I wanted to change my major to nursing, and UNI does
Oh,
not currently offer a nursing degree. So,
got you. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page here. All right. And Carrington, she just didn't make it, right? I just wanted to make sure that I'm not missing someone. Okay. All right. Well, fabulous. Well, if you had an opportunity to kind of catch any of the panels in the past, you know that we typically ask about 2 questions to give you an opportunity to explore your thoughts and your reflections on the book. And the first question that we typically ask everyone is, what served as an aha moment for you when you were reading this book? And I think everybody is waiting on bated breath for your responses, because you're students. And so your perspective, not already being in the working world, so to speak, will probably be really rich and insightful. So why don't we start off, I guess, again with Joshua. Joshua, what was an aha moment for you as you were reading this book?
Well, for me, it was almost right away, like when I first started reading the book, when he was talking about anti-racist ideas. Like everybody knows what racism is, or what they think they do, but like what hit me was when he was saying like the racist idea, like you don't even have to be a racist necessarily to have racist ideas, from like stereotypes and things like that. And I never really thought of it that way. I just kind of just labeled it, you're a racist if you think that way, you know what I mean? So it kind of hit me like, oh, okay, maybe I should rethink how I label versus, like what is actually going on here.
Yeah, so Kendi helped you realize that everyone who participates in racist thinking may not necessarily be cognitive of what they're
Exactly.
doing. Is that what you
Yes.
mean?
Yes. Like,
Okay.
like even growing up, I had ideas like Black people are better at sports, you know what I mean? Or Black people are going to be taller, or, those kind of faded away over time, I would say. But just the fact that I had those ideas, even at a young age, speaks to how deeply ingrained racism really is in our society.
Absolutely. Megan, same question. Well, let me go to Laura. She's to my far left. Laura, I don't want to omit you. An aha moment, same question.
Many of these ideas that were presented in the book were familiar to me, as I've been studying them for quite a while, or seen them throughout my life. What I really liked about the book, and what really made it kind of stand out, was the historical aspect of it. I really liked how it made it seem much more in-depth, and really, as Joshua was saying, the in-depth, the ingrained nature of racism within not just, he studied it mostly on a US basis. He did touch a couple of times through a national basis on what ingrained there, and it really kind of really made things touch out a little bit more. And I thought that was very made things light up a little bit more.
Okay, fabulous, thank you. Megan, an aha moment.
I would say one of the biggest aha moments I had, I would say I highlighted half the book. There were a lot of things that really made me stop and think, but one of them is that equality isn't everyone being the same. It's more being equal, but still being different. I think that's something that when we talk about equality, we don't always consider quite as much, is we all bring our differences to the table, and those are all valuable things, and we can really move on from our differences to have equality but not be identical all the time.
Okay, great. And I would encourage you too, if there's a thought that you think is just so profound that you want to read it verbatim out of the book for the benefit of those who are engaged in book read discussions after the panel discussion, by all means do so. It just kind of helps focus people a little bit more on what Kendi actually said. So we appreciate that, Megan. Jalen, what was an aha moment for you as you were reading this book?
For me, it was him examining his own racist ideas and tendencies that his family supported and he supported. And for me, that was a big deal because I recognized some of the racist ideas that I hold myself and didn't realize that as a Black person, I could also be racist. So it was just a big eye opener for me as well.
Well, Jalen, let me just come back with a follow-up question for you then. I just want you to know if you know anything about the previous panels. There have been some that say Black people can't be racist. And so did you believe that you were harboring racist ideas after Kendi told you so? Or did you know this before Kendi announced it?
I think I realized after he told me because I was also one of the people that believe that Black people can't be racist because we don't have the institutional power to oppress anybody. But I also appreciated how he defined racism and racist policies, that if we support and assimilate with the policies that we are racist in some way because we support and go along with these ideas and policies.
Okay, fabulous. I appreciate the thought on that. And let me see, Nicole, I hope I'm not overlooking anybody, but Nicole, what was an aha moment for you when you were reading the book? Uh-oh, now I can't hear you at all.
Now, how about now?
Oh, that's so much better.
Okay, good. It was towards the end of the book when he found out he had stage 4 colon cancer, and he's going through the treatment, and some days he can barely lift his head, and he still was able to project his treatment for cancer into how one could be an anti-racist. I really think that was important because, you know, we have treatment plans for cancer, but it doesn't appear that we have treatment plans for racism.
Wow. I think Kendi might be working on it though, but yeah, that is fascinating though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That does raise a question. I'm just curious to know what impact did learning about Kendi's medical condition as you got near the end of the book have on your interpretation of everything that he wrote prior to getting to that point? Did it have a positive impact on the way you interpreted what he was writing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll start with you. Please explain, Nicole.
I think that when I got to that point, then it was almost like you could pull everything you had read before and it all came together. You know, throughout the book, you know, there's different points that were highlighted, that were highlights for me from the first time when he was 8 years old and his white teacher, he experienced racism in that form. And then you go to the very end of the book and here he is fighting cancer, but he's still fighting the fight for anti-racism. I don't know, it just made me feel like he is a strong individual and he's just not someone writing a book. He's actually writing it from his heart.
Okay, wonderful. Jalen, did you feel the same way? What impact did learning about Kendi's medical condition have on your interpretation of the writing?
I think I'll have to agree with Nicole. It was, for me, it made the book even more, it made it better reading it, just because he's focusing on the cancer, but he's also dealing with the racism. You know, once people are sick, it's easy to say, this is a fight bigger than me, I'll hand it off to somebody else. But for him to keep going and fight the cancer fight and the anti-racism fight just made him, like Nicole said, an even stronger individual. And it made me want to read the book again, actually.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Megan, same question.
I'd have to say I agree fully with what Jalen and Nicole have said. It really kind of makes the whole thing come together a little bit, kind of makes you think, yeah, he really could have just given up and said, you know, I'm done with fighting this fight so I can go fight this one. But he really has honed in on fighting both and saying that just because I'm in a tough spot with something else doesn't mean that I can't stand up for what's right and what he truly believes in, and
Mm,
letting that story be told beyond just not starting the book by saying, here I am, I'm sick, you should listen to me, saying you should listen to me, and hey, by the way, like, here's this as well,
mm,
instead of like the full focus being on, I'm sick, so I want this story to be heard. It's, I want this story to be heard as well as having an illness and being sick at the same time.
okay. Okay. Fabulous. Fabulous. Laura, um, should Kendi's medical condition have any influence over the way we interpret the writing?
I think that's a great question. While I was thinking about this, I was thinking a lot about people who have historically marginalized identities are not only fighting, you know, normal everyday um, issues at hand, but also other issues. And especially if they choose to take on activism work and now have that can be especially more detrimental to their health, to their, whether it's physical health, to their mental health. And just kind of thinking about how that's, you know, for a lot of people, that can be a very courageous thing to do. It makes one seem, you know, much more braver. But if we're going to look at it on a very human level, what it is, it's really sad is what it is. The fact that people are being forced to do so while also facing life's already so difficult trials. So definitely sad. And his experience are his experiences. So whether or not he was sick, I value his experiences as they were, but it definitely, as humans, also we all empathize on almost a deeper level when we see people suffering, especially for something that we can all relate to. So it definitely, you know, really packed a punch there at the end.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say basically in so many words that what he was actually going through is what we vicariously go through as a result of being on the receiving end of racist assault on a regular and consistent basis. It's like we have cancer and we're trying to shake it. And that's a profound observation. Joshua, what did you think? What did you think about it all?
Well, I've gone through some health issues myself. I've had heart attacks, 2 of them actually, and I'm only 38. So it's been kind of a journey, but I kind of like the way he tied it all together with the biological aspect of it. Like, cancer doesn't discriminate. You know what I mean? It doesn't care if you're white, you're black. And that thought kind of hit me, like, it's like, we should realize that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter like what race you are or what culture you have. Like, these diseases don't discriminate, and they will affect you the same as anyone else. And I think that can tie us more together as a society if we realize that we're all in the same biological dome, if you will. Like, we're all susceptible to these things, and we're not that different biologically.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. That certainly plays on some themes that Kendi brought up before. Race is a social political construct. It's not a biological one.
Exactly.
And so we're kind of all in this thing together. Okay, I got you. It feels good. Well, let's play a little game. We want to throw this last question out at you, and we want to try to keep you to about 2 minutes in your response. And if we've got more time, we will certainly follow up with some questions or two. But Joshua, we'll start off with you, I guess. We want to know now, what was it in the book that absolutely disturbed you, okay? It was something that you were reading and it jumped out at you so hard that you had to make a note about it. You made a mental note at the very least. And you just thought that this was something that you needed to take a pause for and drink a glass of water or something. What was that?
Well, I'd say I was most disturbed by like him, like, because we all think of racism as like a past thing. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the majority of people think that it's a past thing, that we're over that now. You know what I mean? And what really disturbed me is his references to like the Bush administration, and even now during the Trump administration, the continuing racial divide or the policies that are being put out. Like, it really disturbed me that we're still going through. It's not better. You know what I mean? It's in fact, in some aspects, worse than where we were just say 10 years ago, because of the policies that have been put out, the zero tolerance policy and things like that. And that really made me like take a step back and like, wow, like I can't believe this hasn't been addressed yet. You know, like, why are we just repeating itself? That's the definition of insanity. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well said. Yeah, I think many of us are insane, the way we perpetuate racism. No
Mhm.
question about that. Laura, was there something that stood out to you that was really disturbing to you as you were reading the book?
As I discussed things with my reading group, a lot of things that we did was we analyzed things from the book and then compared it to our own lives. And well, I hold a couple of different identities that may be marginalized. Um, I think the most profound one was, as he talked about growing up, the idea of almost like a self-hate from being in environments that are primarily in this aspect of race white. I grew up in Cedar Falls. It's a very white area. I am Latina. There were very few Latinas in Cedar Falls High School, in elementary school, throughout all that time. And just growing up and kind of equating, not exactly equating, but comparing how I grew up and someone's experiences and what he put in the book. It was just kind of, at some moments, you had to kind of sit back and be like, I can't believe that I grew up in that environment and that happened to me and that I had to face those situations. And I wish that somebody had been there for me to tell me that that wasn't the case. And even though knowing that when you're in an environment, when you're surrounded by people who, might not aggressively hate you, but are always putting out some sort of a comment, it's disheartening, especially when you think of the amount of young people who are currently in the situation right now and how difficult it is to get out of that situation. So that's what
Wow.
really stuck out to me.
So you being Latina, you actually thought he captured your experience very well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no, monolithic one marginalized experience, right? But I think there are a lot of experiences that historically marginal identities share very well. And I think especially when you're living in a environment that there aren't many people like you in some area, the idea of self-hate from some form or another crops up very often, unfortunately.
Yeah, great, great, great. Megan, what really popped at you?
I think Joshua kind of hit on mine a little bit, but I was reading the part about the 2000 election just this week, and the parallels that I was drawing from that, I actually had to put the book down and walk away. I was like, how have we gotten 20 years into the future and the same exact thing is happening, but not even on like a smaller scale? It's not just Florida now, it's more states. And it feels that just at this point, we should have moved on from this, but we're back right where we were 20 years ago, but even almost worse than it was. And I think that that really kind of hurt me, because as much as we talk about, yeah, we're getting better, we're really not. And it kind of made the whole thing a little bit more real and a little bit more tangible to me.
Wow, yeah. When we look at that electoral map, by the way, we can tell that the United States is ferociously divided. So yeah, it is, it's illustrative, I tell you, to say the least. Nicole, what popped at you?
Towards the beginning of the book, where a classmate of his had raised her hand, and the teacher waited for a white student to raise their hand and called on that person. He described how she felt on the outside. She slowly lowered her hand down and she, kind of bowed her head, and he was furious inside. And the thing that caught me is that at 8 years old, he said that basically saying that my blood runs through my body just like theirs does. And 8 years old. So why can an 8-year-old figure that out, but an adult, seems to struggle with it? It fathoms me.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you all feel like you're slackers? Because he started his activism in the 3rd grade.
I
How many
know.
of you all started that early? Okay.
No.
Just checking, just checking. Jalen, I don't recall asking you that last question. And the question is, does something stand out to you? Does something pop out at you?
For me, it was a combination of all of those things, but specifically the chapter about behavior, where he's talked about how one Black person usually represents the whole race. And for me, and how one Black person has to be extraordinary to do well in life. And for me, I felt like disappointed in myself because I also thought that way. And for myself and the ideals that I hold, like first in society, we do have to be better, but we also hold those principles for other Black people who don't have the resources, and we become classes and elitists to our own people. So for me, being in school and then coming home and talking to people that aren't in college, I feel I'm being judgmental, and I'm also having those thoughts like, oh, you need to do better. We're not going to get anywhere as a people. So for me, it was more of like a self-reflection part. I've done self-reflecting, but usually it's not as focused or guided. And the behavior chapter really kind of I don't know, just put me back in perspective that I'm not better than anybody and that nobody's better than me in that way.
Yeah, so you would say it was kind of humbling to read
Yeah.
the chapter? Oh, okay, fabulous, fabulous. Well, I have to admit though, you do carry the burden of race. I mean, you said you're studying neuroscience, right?
Yes.
Are you going to be a doctor? Is that what I hear?
That's the plan right now, but nobody really knows. So that's the plan right now, but I do feel the burden of my race, but I also feel that we have to uplift each other. And I think that when we say that we're the burden of the race, we think, I don't know, I'm sorry, trying to put it into words, that we have to do it alone. And it's always 100%, you have to be excellent, or, it just sets us back 100 years, when we have so much to show for it.
Yeah, well said, well said. Well, I certainly wish you success in all of your work. And for all of you students, I wish the very best for you. We are so appreciative that you took the time to, elaborate a little bit about your feelings regarding this great book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And for those who are tuning in, we just want to thank you again for participating in another community-wide book read discussion featuring the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. I'm your host, Abraham L. Funches. I hope you enjoy your reading. Have a good night.